The trail of the 3rd Army and the 19th Tactical Air Command of the 8th Air Force is marked by more than 40,000 white crosses, 40,000 dead Americans.
We were young and soldiers called to dedicate our lives in the name of God and country. Do what's just, boys. Go do what's right. A hot band of brothers waiting on our chance to add one more page unto the victory dance. Here am I, Lord, send me, send me. Victory lies in the spirit of the lives of the men who died for me.
Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?" And I said, "Here am I. Send me."
This is Michael Broderick, Marine Corps veteran, actor, and Gallant Few board member. You are listening to the New American Veteran. Now here's Carl Monger.
Hey, this is Carl Monger, the Executive Director of Gallant Few and the host of the New American Veteran. It is my honor and privilege today to welcome Bill Bradley to the New American Veteran. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, if my memory works, and I'm getting older, so sometimes I forget, but you're a Ranger.
I am.
Served in the Army. If you're a Ranger, you probably served in the Army. Tell me a little bit about that. You're a bat boy, if I remember right.
Yeah, so I was on a 3rd Bat. I was in Charlie Company, 1, 2. I was just your regular line guy. You know, I went through and I was an option 40 guy, a Ranger baby. I did my whole time at Fort Benning, got in, did my deployment. I'm like most Rangers. I got hurt doing a jump, and that put me out of battalion early. It's a fairly common story coming out of battalion. People do the full tilt there, or they have some major injury and go home. That's kind of where I fell in.
And the reality is that very few Rangers, make it all the way through to become the regimental sergeant major. That along the way, there are Absolutely. A million things that can take you out of that process, and getting hurt during training. Yeah, and especially on jump, that's one of them. So hopefully you've fully recovered from all of that.
Yeah, it's been good. My biggest thing is I hurt my back like a lot of guys do. As a result of that, it's more of the nerve damage stuff. A lot of the muscle things, we all work out. That's kind of our way of life. You can get over that. You can rehab and rebuild some of those things. Nerve damage is the big one because it takes so long. And that's just a waiting game. And guys who are in bat hate to do that. So that's probably the hardest part, is just waiting out that kind of stuff and doing your long-term rehab.
Now, did you have to go through that rehab through the VA, or did you have private insurance for that?
So while I was I went through a full course of rehab, and I went to a neurologist for a pain management clinic. Basically, the way it worked was once we got through the full course of that was when the Army said, "We'll see you later." Just because of the time frame for the regrowth for nerves takes so long. Then when I got out, I had my degree before going in, so I was recruited for a job, which kind of was a huge windfall for me. So beyond that, it was my insurance at my new job. There was a little bit of a gap there, but not a whole lot, because as you do the out process for the military, you do the resume class and all of those things. And so I benefited very much from that. I didn't have too much of a downtime.
How was that transition process for you?
It was not good to start. So I got out of the military. I was 25 years old. I had a degree, so I was recruited to go back into my degree field, which is the sciences. And I was 3 weeks removed from being in Ranger Battalion to being a supervisor of an average age workforce of 55.
There's a little change there.
Yeah. So there was definitely a hard transition to tasks. You know, I was the boss. I gave you these tasks and you do that, and then we're good to go. Well, in the private workforce, that's not always how it works. Everybody is allowed to have an opinion on some things, and maybe there's a different way to do it. Plus, you're new and learning. That's not how it works in battalion. You know, this is how we do this, and we're going to go. And if there are ways to innovate and do things, that's good. But our tried and true methods, we do, and you do without question. So having someone stand up and go, no, I don't think so, I'm going to do this, I had a very hard time with, especially being the boss.
So how did you get through that?
I hung out with the other supervisors. Obviously, most everybody there was quite a bit older than me. A lot of the supervisors at that particular place had come up through the ranks and been employees before. So it was more of me just asking them, hey, you know, this is what my book says. This is what Joe wants to do. What do you think? You know, and then I would go off of their experience, you know, hey, that sounds right. You know, he's been here a long time. Why don't you check it out? Or I think he's trying to pull one over on you because you're a young dude. Fix it. So my thing was, you know, I just got with older employees who had more experience and kind of had to pick and choose the people that you would trust with that.
Nice.
So.
And so now you the reason that we're talking is because you shot a message on Facebook about your current business now, which is reptiles.
Yeah. I left that particular job and I went into a federal position. It was weird for me to be on the private side. I wanted to get back into government service. I kind of understood that. I understood the retirement process. And then my degree was obviously completely different. And I was leaving that field and I wanted to keep doing something in that, and I keep in the sciences. And I ended up with the room behind me that has 70 plus reptiles in it, doing a bunch of shows for kids. That was what I did in school before the military. And it was such a hard turn away from that to go to something like battalion because it is so consuming to be in that lifestyle. You kind of drop off a lot of the other stuff. So when I got out, I slowly started to get back into the sciences. I took a job in that field. And then I just kind of built it up from there.
Now, you told me when we talked on the phone that, you called them your babies, if I remember right. But your girlfriend at the time, who became your fiance, who you married, she was girlfriend before military, then married after. Is that correct?
We got married, like most people in the military. I got married right before deployment. So yeah, we were together right before, and she was with me when we got in, and then got married while we were in. And
then after you got married, Tommy, tell me about her response after you got out and you started getting back into the reptiles. What was her response to that?
She's behind the camera making a face. So I was in graduate school before the military, and that's where we met. She was an undergrad, and obviously we were both into the sciences. And she knew that I was into reptiles and things. We dated, everything was cool. I had crazy snakes and things, and I didn't think that was a big deal. I went to the military. Obviously, all that got put to the side. I donated a lot of my things back to the school. And then from there on, it was military. You know, she became a battalion wife, and it was full tilt, you know, all the time. So we got out, and I had that little bit of a transition period, and we had kids by that time. And I said, hey, you know, I'd really like to get back into this. We have our own kids now. I want to do their schools and libraries and stuff like that. And she said, what are you talking about? I hate those things. I don't like them. And now she's laughing at me behind the thing.
Yeah, I hear her laughing back there.
Yeah. And what do you mean? And she said, I wanted you to like me. We were just dating. I thought that was something you were doing in school. You know, you've been in the military. We don't do that stuff. So it was a pretty hard transition because it turned out she actually was terrified of them. So the first person I taught about them was my wife. So.
And so now you say you do shows for kids to educate them on the animals.
Right. We do a couple of different things where we'll go to schools and libraries for actual science lessons, genetics and conservation and things like that. And then we'll have Boy Scouts and local groups that don't have their own place. That's actually the reason for the shop that's behind me, is they can come to us as opposed to, you know, they're always trying to get a room at a library or a church or something. Now when they call me, hey, I got 38 kids, what are you doing on Friday? I don't have to tell them no because it's in my living room. I actually have a place that they can come and they can come to us. And then we do the normal, you know, birthday parties and kids want to play with things and just get stuff out and do cool stuff. But a lot of it is public education, working with museums and libraries and things like that.
And what's the name of your business?
It's called Coal Black Exotics. So I'm from a small town in Illinois called Coal City. So I kind of tried to keep their name in it because growing up, that's the place I started playing with snakes and doing all that sort of thing. And then that was always my goal, was to come back around here somewhere with the people that I knew and bring all my crazy pets to them and teach them about them. So now I get to do that.
So do you have a couple of animals you're going to show us?
Sure.
What would you like me now?
Want to get out the crested and then grab some snakes. It helps to have somebody off camera who's able to just grab things for me.
And then grab some snakes, I heard you say.
Yeah. That's probably not a normal directive given to people.
It's the first for one of the interviews that I've done. Yeah, exactly.
So that's also part of it, is they don't do it on command. Anything little like that. So something like a little guy that likes to jump
Yeah,
and
it's
run.
fast.
So that's normal, you know, something kid size, kid appropriate. They can play
what
with
do you
it.
have there in your hands? It's a little hard to see on my camera.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's called a crested gecko. So we use these guys because they are from an island off of Australia. And until the mid 90s, they were considered extinct. They were discovered by scientists there. And it turns out they really love to eat baby food. So people brought them back to Europe, brought them to zoos, and now they're very prolific. So it lets people like me teach kids lessons about, if you want to be a scientist and go play in Australia, you can discover things that people thought were gone forever.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're fun. But it's
How long
also
have you
one
had
of
that guy?
We've had him 3 years now. That is one of the things about coming from a place like Battalion, though, is people don't always expect guys that look like us to come over and play with little fuzzy lizards and cuddly things.
Right.
The flip to that is they do expect big bearded guys with tattoos and all that to play with giant snakes. So there's a little bit of kind of getting around the way people perceive us, I guess.
What do you have there?
This is an Arizona mountain king snake. So it's a coral snake mimic. So he's very little, tiny little face, not big teeth or anything. So he's trying to fake it like he's a very venomous coral snake, and he's actually harmless. Another good lesson, one for kids, especially people who live in the American Southwest. We try to teach kids about things that are in this country. So, you know, which snakes are okay to, if you see your mom and dad out hiking and want to go play with one, that's fine, and which ones aren't. It's not as big of an issue where I live in the Midwest, obviously, but because of social media especially, we get kids in schools and things from all over the place that will message us and make little videos. And my wife has made a couple of videos for schools in Kansas, you know, and you're talking someplace so far from me that their common grass snake isn't what kids in Illinois see, so you have to change your lessons and things. So
how do you tell a coral snake apart from that?
So this particular snake, if you can see him,
I can. Yep.
red, black, yellow, or in his case, kind of dirty white color. Red on black is a friend to Jack. Red on yellow will kill a fellow. So a coral snake will look exactly like this, but the colors would be flipped. The problem is that rhyme only works in this country. If you ever get a chance to go on vacation in someplace like Brazil, there's 23 kinds of coral snake and none of them look like this. So it's one of those where it's a novelty thing. It's good for kids to know if they go play on the outdoors in our country.
Yeah.
There is a good science lesson behind it, and then we can teach kids about ecology in different parts of the world. And plus they're little a lot of little handheld things. Kids want to grab things and play with them and fling them around, and these guys obviously don't mind that.
Yeah, awesome, nice.
Con. Yeah. She laughed because I asked her to get something that's actually big. So this one, this guy's a Mexican black king snake. I use a lot of these guys to show kids that people in the sciences are very technical and they consider themselves to be very advanced, but they can also be very simple. This is a king snake that's black, and they're only found in Mexico. And someone literally named it a Mexican black king snake. It's a very simple thing. They're not, the one before, Arizona mountain king snake. It's quite literally just where it's from. So I like to show kids, you can go to school for 10 years and then just call something its color and neighborhood and you'll be fine.
Where's the hook?
The hook, I don't know.
Now, it's taken her some time to get used to handling these guys.
It has. So when I first got out of the military, I was the new guy. So I had to take the overnight shift to be the supervisor. And I had a few snakes here and there, just a couple of things to work with the local library, nothing crazy. And I got a phone call that said, one of the snakes is out and I don't know what to do. And I worked 45 minutes from home, and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I can't come home. I don't know what to do. Okay, fine. And I get a phone call later, and it was, I put it in a bucket. It'll be here when you get home. And so we were good that night. And then a couple of days later, my oldest daughter at the time was really hesitant around them. She looked like she was really uncomfortable. And my wife said no. She's like, they are looking at it like that because they saw me freak out the other day about the bucket. Just put it on me and I'll deal with it. And I mean, I'm not going to say no. That's what I do. So it took a lot of getting used to, especially a lot of the things that we have are very big and aren't aggressive, but they have the potential to be. So it's a teaching point, how to work with them and things like that. She didn't go to school for that. She's kind of a chemistry nerd. This is not her thing, so from, oh, hey, I want to show kids this little thing. That's cool. To, hey, can you hand me the 40-inch lizard with the 3-inch claws? Is that okay? It's a lot to ask of your wife to learn. But her biggest push for it was, I was very into it. And so the kids were really into it. That's fine. But they saw both parents had opposite reactions. And well, if dad's not here, we should be scared because mom's scared. And that made her really uncomfortable. So it pushed her to do it. And it ended up working out really well.
Nice. It's a brave woman you got there.
Do you want to hold him or
Here,
can he? What am I doing?
trade.
Yes, trade.
And what's your wife's name?
Her name is Teresa.
Oh, Teresa.
And she just handed me a 10-foot, 60-pound snake. So she obviously has gotten over the being scared of snakes factor.
Yeah, she had it draped over her shoulder back behind you there.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Especially working with big animals, in a lot of fields, to be honest, that was one of the things that got me. People saw me come out of the military, and we work with rescues and charities and things like that for animals. And what I always get now is, oh, hey, yeah, you're Bill. It's okay. Can you just put this on you? You look big enough to deal with it. You look like you could handle it. Oh, yeah, okay. I don't know anything about that, but I guess I look like I could deal. You kind of look the part, so you had to start acting the part pretty quick. So
what you got there?
This is an albino Burmese python. And she's very fat. Well, she's fine. So we use these to show, we do a lot of good pet versus bad pet kind of thing. And we go to libraries and children's groups and a lot of parent groups. And we try to teach lessons, this is what a baby looks like. This is what an adult looks like. Maybe you should kind of reconsider your purchase kind of thing. Because we're board members of the rescue, we really try to push that angle. I'm the guy you call when something gets huge and you can't have it anymore. And people like me in zoos just only have so much space, so we try to educate people to really limit that. She has no desire to sit on me and be on camera.
How much does an albino python like that eat?
So we go by percent body weight for the large guys. So she weighs between 40 and 60 pounds, depending on what she ate in the last 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, she gets between 4 and 6 pounds of food. So a rabbit or a chicken.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not the I guess it's not the typical post-military career, but it's really worked out.
Well, and that's it's a great example of following your passion, right? So
Absolutely.
you not only your education, but the things that you like to do, and you're able to include your spouse in it, and she's accepting of that. I mean, that's what an awesome combination.
That part took a little bit, but yeah.
So how do people, if first off, where are you located? And if people in that area, if they want to contact you, how do they do that?
So we are about an hour and a half south of Chicago. We're in a town called Dwight. I-55 is the main highway off in Illinois for everybody from north to south. So we're right off of that. Most people contact us through Facebook. Social media is huge. We do Instagram and Twitter because we share all the pictures. A lot of the schools that contact us that aren't from here, that's their biggest thing is, hey, we're doing a lesson on this particular thing. Can you show us stuff from China this quarter? Sure. Are you anywhere near Dwight? Oh, no, I live in southern Kansas. Okay, well, on Thursday, I'll get you a Facebook post and you can look at all these pictures of things from China or wherever it is, you're doing your lesson. So a lot of it's social media driven. For local folks, it's kind of the same way. They'll check in here on Facebook and do that kind of thing and show their friends that they're here. And the way our downtown is set up, there are quite a few restaurants and things. I ride the ambulance here in town, so there's always somebody floating around downtown. They do a lot of the online check-in. A lot of people share it to their friends. Hey, I'm going here to do this on Sunday. What are you doing? Because we're off Old Route 66, so it is a pretty big tourism thing. A lot of people get in their old cars and cruise on down.
And your Facebook page is Cold Black Exotics.
It is.
And
yes.
What's your Twitter and your Instagram?
So they're all under Cold Black Exotics.
Okay.
I kind of lucked out in that I'm the only one with that name. I do get quite a few of the advertising calls. A lot of people who have businesses get them about Google. Hey, if you pay us a fee, we'll up your Google look. And I always ask them, I said, have you ever Googled reptile shows in Chicago? Why, no, sir, I haven't. And I said, well, why don't you go ahead? It's a fairly unique thing. There aren't very many of us that are doing it. So yeah, if you look up Cold Black Exotics on basically any social media platform, you'll find us. And that's kind of how we roll. People call and message and text. It's this day and age, my wife and I always have our phones on us, like everybody who's glued to them. So we're very easy to get a hold of. Dwight's a very small town, so we lucked out that our shop is only a few blocks from our home. In summertime, we're bringing the kids, turn lights off, or where we walk, ride bikes. It's a very family-oriented type of place.
Very nice. What final thoughts? What did I not ask you that I should have asked you?
Nothing really. I mean, it's kind of an odd little business. It didn't so much have a lot to do with my time in the military. It's definitely been influenced by that, especially with a lot of the service aspects. When we do a lot of charity work, we work with a lot of rescues. You find a lot of people who are veterans, a lot of people who are first responders are heavily involved in those kind of things. So that was when we've met people in those crowds. we all sort of had a similar story. You know, hey, I was in here, I got out, this is what I do, and now I donate to that or work here or volunteer and things. A lot of us have a similar background. It might not be a bunch of bat boys, but it's usually somebody who had been in it one time or another, and this is their continuing service at a charity event or something like that. So no, I mean, I get that it's a little different to transition out of the military to a strange thing. But no, I mean, a lot of the things that are related to that have been very helpful here.
Well, I think it's an outstanding example that, you know, a lot of misconception out there that if you were an infantryman in the Army or in the Marine Corps, that the only thing you're good for is a security guard or being a law enforcement officer. So it's a great example of thinking outside the box and
Absolutely.
following what your passion is and doing stuff that's fun to you. And kudos for you for that. If you were to give advice, one or two pieces of advice to somebody leaving active duty in terms of veteran transition, what would you tell them?
Exactly what you just said. You know, being a grunt or even being in special operations or anything highly advanced, it just takes a great deal of perseverance. That's the biggest thing. You know, everybody wants to learn how to get. When I went through, it was RIP. Now it's RASP. Oh, hey, how do you get through RASP? And be fit, do what you're told, go hard.
Don't quit.
That translates into anything. I don't care what you go to school for. If you're willing to put in the time and you show up on time and do everything that you're supposed to do, I mean, that's how 4.0 GPAs are made. So I don't think it really matters that you have a passion in something that's outside of that. You know, hey, I don't want to be a CrossFit gun guru forward battalion guy. I want to go do turtles. Oh, okay. Will you put in a lot of time and energy and go full tilt? Yeah, absolutely. Well, you'll probably be the best turtle guy ever. That's, that's just how it works. And I think that's something that is instilled in you the whole time that you're in. And as long as you carry that with you, it shouldn't matter what particular discipline you choose to go into. It will benefit you greatly.
Great words. Hey, Bill and Teresa, if she's still listening, thank you so much for being on the show today. Cold Black Exotics, did she grab another animal? Do you have another one over on the side there?
She can.
You want me to get Penelope?
I do. I'll give you a huge one for
Yeah, we got time for one more here.
For sure. This one takes a little bit of a transition.
Yeah, I just got done telling you a little bit ago, look at the camera, and I keep wanting to look at the screen now. I'm going to have to go back and watch this so I can see everything.
Well, it's par for the course. So this is Penelope. She is an Argus monitor. So it is an Australian cousin to the Komodo dragon. They're all monitor lizards. She's about 40 inches long. She weighs, what do you think? 25, 28 pounds or so. She's a very large grassland predator that you could hold like a baby. So it's another thing where we were talking before about, oh, hey, you look the part. That happens quite a bit where people, especially in the charity aspect, and we go to rescues and things like that. We're the kind of people where we show up and they're like, oh, hey, I have a giant lizard. I think you'd be okay. What does that mean? Well, no, you just look like you could hold that. Oh, okay, let's try. Well, and then I completely fill the stereotype by holding a 40-inch lizard like a baby. So sometimes it works out.
Oh, that's awesome. So what's the natural predator for that thing?
When they're babies, it's birds and cats. When they're adults, it's pretty much, are you licking my face? It's pretty much others of their own kind and crocodilians. So a lot of monitor lizards like to steal eggs because they're good eating, and mother crocs don't appreciate it. So that's their dynamic. Once you're this big, there just aren't a whole lot of things that eat you. So it would take something quite large.
Yeah, I'm pretty tough looking there.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, thank you again. Really appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for your service.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Appreciate everything you do. One day, maybe I'll get through Illinois there. I'll pop in and check out your menagerie that you have.
Absolutely.
All right.
That is something too that I would tell people. My business in particular, we try to do active duty and first responders discounts and veteran charity things. When you ask something that I would have for other people who are getting out, yeah, she's fighting with a lizard.
It's reminded me of like one of those airplane movies where somebody's having a conversation in the background, somebody's fighting with a bear, you know?
Yeah, pretty much. That's how this goes. No, that particularly, and part of the reason that I like talking to you and that I follow the things that are happening on social media with you guys. A lot of veterans put out for other veterans, and I think that's awesome. So if you get out and things do work out for you, you know, you end up with a shop and a business and kids, and it's all great. Put it out there for other people. You know, push it to your buddies. I think that's huge. I think the battalion community, we're very small, we're very tight knit. So I think it's probably a more natural progression for us to get out and have our buddies be involved. But maybe not the military as a whole. I know it's pretty spread out. It's very scattered. Guys get into big army units, and then everybody's got an EOD at a different time, and you all scatter to the four winds when you go home. But I definitely think if it works for you and you are able to give to your buddies and give to people who did what you did, then I strongly encourage that. I think that's probably my biggest takeaway is that I got hurt and I got out, and you know that sucked. It's a typical bat story or whatever, but it worked out for me. It ended up being great. So it would feel selfish of me not to try and help out and do something, because I know that's not how it always works for guys that do what we do. So I think that would be a major takeaway for anybody who's watching this or who participates in the things that Gallant Few does. I think that's huge. You know, if you're able to give to your buddies, I think you really should.
Nice. And there, I think there's an argument that says that you have a responsibility to do it.
Absolutely.
And with I read something yesterday that going into the military is a calling, and you're given resources there. You're given exposure to leadership training and things that build your character. And some things are pleasant and some things are unpleasant, but they make you better. They make you stronger. They make you capable of dealing with things. So when you go back to your community, there's an obligation. The government's invested in you now. Take that back to your community and make the community a better place. And that's
Absolutely.
by connecting and sharing and doing what you guys are doing. So you're awesome. I appreciate you guys being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you. You guys have a great week.
And you.
All right.
What do you stand to lose when you make the choice to drink and drive? Your career, the people that you love the most, your ability to walk, your ability to use your hands. The list goes on and on. What do you stand to gain when you make the choice to not drink and drive? You stand to gain everything. I made the choice to drink and drive, and that's some of the things I lost. Learn from my mistakes. Make the right choice. Don't drink and drive. Rangers lead the way.
That beautiful rendition of Taps is a public domain recording created and recorded by an employee of the United States government. It is open source and not under copyright protection. Kenny Thomas' song Send Me is used by permission of Kenny Thomas. Isaiah 6:8 was read by Tim Abel. Thank you, Michael Broderick, for the introduction. All work is original or used by permission. This has been a production of Gallant Fuse, the New American Veteran, a member of the Heroes Media Group. All rights reserved.